Anthony Fauci is surely peerless. It was he, after all, that claimed to be the science, the personification of science, in the same way that Elvis Presley was the personification of rock and roll. Well, let me tell you, Anthony Fauci ain't dancing no more. He's being pinned to the wall, sprawled on a pin by Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is an extraordinary turnabout. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's often talked about in derisory terms and condemned because she seems kind of southern and sort of shucks and kind of vulgar. To see this woman take Anthony Fauci to task is a beautiful sight to behold. And what I want you to remember as he equivocates and prevaricates and fills his speech with caveats is that they were very certain indeed. They were certain that you should be shamed.
Yeah. They need to be called out and shamed, brother.
They were certain you should take those medications, which increasingly seem to be more deserving of the term than vaccine. Where did all the certainty go? And how can we trust the institutions that were so certain then when now they seem so full of doubt? So this is that story, of course. There's a bombshell testimony from Fauci as he revealed he made up the 6-foot social distancing rule and other measures. You know, I don't recall. It just sort of appeared. You'll be familiar with that story by now. Let's have a look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. In a sense, the voice of the people in this instance. And look, we know that the country's divided now. We know that the world's divided now. And what I want to invite you to consider is the people that hate Marjorie Taylor Greene, how do they feel when they watch this? And how do they justify their disdain? How other than elitism would you condemn Marjorie Taylor Greene for pointing out that there are cruel scientific experiments that were signed off by Anthony Fauci using or misusing animals, that he should be taken to task and held to account for his certainty, for his own hyperbole? Over the course of this section, you'll hear and be reminded of Anthony Fauci's certainty. Remember when he said their ideological bullshit will be dropped once B.F. Skinner behavioral techniques are used against them. Remember what has taken place, and for a moment, forget about the vengeance and forget about the validation and think instead, if this is what we know now about what were they doing then, what can we assume now about what they're doing when it comes to the Trump trial, when it comes to free speech, when it comes to their increasingly desperate attempts to control our ability to communicate together and therefore unify and oppose them? Let's have a look at Marjorie Taylor Greene taking Fauci to task and delight for a moment in what appears to be a clash between cultures.
Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes or no?
So, you know, before it weren't so caveated, was it? Before it was a lot more confident and a lot more certain. Already you can see that the dynamic is changing. Do you for a moment, though, imagine that this will lead to any kind of justice? Because what do you mean by justice now? Can we believe that there is an objective, transcendent, ulterior entity that is issuing justice? Are you certain that what we don't have now is a set of institutions that deploy for utility whatever tools or means they have to hand? Hopefully, this will lead to Anthony Fauci facing a proper reckoning for some of the dreadful decisions he made, for some of the corruption, for what looks like deep institutional corruption, but maybe not. Maybe not, because simultaneous to this, we're experiencing the Trump verdict. Simultaneous to this, we're seeing a world seeking to impose censorship and control wherever it might be possible.
Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no.
Yes, it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent.
But
this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil.
I like that, because that's obviously something that's very personal to her and's been on her mind. Who don't love dogs? Like, do you know what she's doing there? This is actually quite interesting, because with Alex Jones's ongoing persecution, there's a sort of an attempt to conflate him incorrectly saying that Sandy Hook was a false flag event with the brutality of the murders themselves. You know, and Now, Anthony Fauci is having to face the consequences of science as a subset of commodification, science as a subset of the agenda of Big Pharma. How ridiculous it now seems that Pfizer were ever heralded as heroes. Oh, thank you, Pfizer. Albert Bourla and your moonshot, Moderna and your miracles, Johnson & Johnson and your kindness and compassion, as if it were Johnson & Johnson and Jesus. No. What we're getting to see now is that the pharmaceutical industry is a for-profit endeavor, that Anthony Fauci is a public official that has facilitated enormous profits, that potentially the entire pandemic period was about... Hey, we've got a lovely partner today. It's our friends at Hallow. Hallow is the #1 prayer app in the world. I use it. You can explore Christianity with over 10,000 prayers, meditations, and music. What better way to deepen your connection to the loving Lord Christ? It's been downloaded 4 million times in 150 countries. Be like Calm or Headspace, but for Christians. Hallow helps you pray and meditate and sleep better. It's helped me build a daily routine of habit and prayer. I do the rosary. I know it off by heart, except the end bit. I've got to learn that. You can pray alongside Mark Wahlberg, Jim Caviezel, he was Jesus, Jonathan Rumi, he was Jesus in The Chosen. You can choose your own Jesus, what version of Christianity do you want? And you know Jonathan Rumi was my body double in Ballers, Jesus was my body double. Download it today, reclaim your rightful peace and grow closer to God. Go to hallow.com/brand to try the Hallow prayer app. You will love it. Okay, let's get back to the content. Experimenting with the degrees to which they could get away with social control.
And these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent. You confess that you made up the COVID rules, including 6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You made it up as you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
So that's different. This is the best birthday present I could have. Anthony Fauci being taken to task by that peroxide blonde demon woman doing the work of righteousness. Like, do you remember it's just a couple of weeks ago that we saw AOC, like, girl, baby, girl.
Are your feelings hurt?
Oh, girl, baby, girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play,
Baby, girl?
If Marjorie Taylor Greene were doing the whims of the establishment right now, they'll be saying, this is a feminist hero, taking the patriarchy to task. But what methods will they find to deride Marjorie Taylor Greene? Oh, God, she's vulgar. What's dogs got to do with science? What's cruelty got to do with anything? Do you remember at the beginning of the pandemic period when people started talking about dual-purpose research, when people talked about the lab leak theory versus the natural origin theory? Do you remember the certainty, the condemnation, the criticism? We're living in extraordinary times. What I'm suggesting to you today is that this is a pivotal moment when it comes to the Trump trial, even what's happening with Alex Jones, and certainly what's happening with Anthony Fauci. We're looking at the concept of justice itself, and we are looking at an establishment cracking and falling apart, reaching in every possible direction to find whatever weapons it can to bring down and curtail potential opposition. Everywhere you look, dissidents and opponents of the establishment are having the legal system deployed against them. Everywhere you look, outspoken critics of the establishment are being smeared. It's a playbook. They've lost our trust. They've lost the consensus. They're losing control. When you look at Anthony Fauci being confronted by Marjorie Taylor Greene, you are looking at a sea change. You are looking at an epochal moment, because where's Colbert's vaccine dancers now? Where's the cavalcade of chorus girls? Oh, is it okay to find Anthony Fauci sexy? I hope he's not too sexy when he's doing proper jail time. That I hope.
This is science. And making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve?
No, oh no, it was all a massive con. The people that seemed to be hysterical on the periphery were the actual harbingers of truth. We should have been more circumspect. Those of us, those of you that maybe took those medications, like at some point all of us did stuff that we were told, didn't we? All of us stayed in our houses, and we shouldn't condemn ourselves or actually condemn others. Let's look at this in good faith. Let's assume that people were obedient, not because People like to be subjugated and like to be subordinated. This is America. This is the land of the free. This is where freedom is the credo. Your individual and collective liberty is the chief among all of your ideals. Let's just assume that people were obedient because of the sanctity of human life, because we should love one another, that is the utmost among the commandments. Love one another. If we have to stay in our homes to protect one another, let's stay in our homes. If we have to take a new experimental product to protect one another, I'll take it. Wouldn't you not do that to protect your children? If someone said to me, we've just developed this in a laboratory, take it now and protect your kids, I'll do it right away. If someone says you've got to stay in your home, you can't leave the house ever again, it'll protect your children, you got me. The problem is, it was a lie, and they knew it was a lie, and they pretended that it was true in order to assert control. This was always about authority.
It's like that, Mr. Fauci, because you're not doctor, you're Mr.
I'm stripping you of that. Marjorie Taylor Greene's really leaning into the moment. Actually, that PhD, that's gone. This is not an interview that Anthony Fauci would get on the BBC, MSNBC, CNN, any of those spaces.
Fauci, how are you?
Good to see you.
It's been a while.
Yes, indeed.
Since we went to dinner together.
Yes.
That deified him and reified his work and presented him as if he were a little Caesar of science, a man given incredible power, a man given incredible public resources, a man benefiting, it seems, from royalties from pharmaceutical companies who we trusted as if he was objective. What delirium we were laboring under.
My few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. That man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in prison.
Suspend.
Here you are, without your mask, where you got to go and enjoy the game and sit right.
Look at you. You're having the time of your life there in an empty ballpark, you son of a bitch. I've enjoyed Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's never less than magnificent.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.